Okay, let's dive right into this. You ever just look around and wonder, how did all this stuff get here? I mean, the food you eat, the clothes you're wearing, even the slang you use. It can feel pretty random, right? Well, it turns out there's a hidden science to it all, a secret map for how things travel across the globe.
Seriously, think about it. How is it that you can go to a McDonald's in India and get something called a Maharaja Mac? Why is English, a language from this one tiny island, spoken all the way over in Australia? And yeah, let's talk about the big one. How did a haircut from a single character on a 90s sitcom become one of the most famous hairstyles on the entire planet? These aren't just random trivia questions, they're all pieces of the exact same puzzle.
And the master key that unlocks that puzzle? It's a single concept called diffusion. That's the fancy term for it. But all it really means is the process of how stuff, ideas, inventions, culture spreads from one place to another. It's the story of an idea's journey.
And, every journey has to start somewhere. In geography, that starting point is called a cultural hearth. Think of it like ground zero, the birthplace of an idea. It's the spot where a new trend or invention first sparks to life before it starts its big adventure out into the world. You gotta know the hearth to track the path. So, once an idea leaves its home, its hearth, it hits a fork in the road. It pretty much always takes one of two main paths. The first one is super simple. People literally pack up and move, and they bring their ideas and culture with them. The second path is a little more mysterious. The idea itself seems to just travel, while the people who dreamed it up stay right where they are.
All right, let's tackle that first path, the most straightforward one. We can call this group the movers. The official name is relocation diffusion. This is when culture gets packed into a suitcase, sometimes literally, and just moves to a completely new place.
And this process, it has shaped entire continents. I mean, the English and Spanish languages spread across the Americas because colonists physically moved there. Same story for French in Quebec. Different empire, same exact process. And it's not just language. Religion travels this way too. Think about Catholicism being brought to Latin America by colonists, or Buddhism being carried to East Asia by missionaries. The rule here is simple. The people moved, and their culture hitched a ride.
That makes sense, right? But hold on. That doesn't explain how a meme can circle the globe in an afternoon. So what about the ideas that seem to move at the speed of light, way faster than any person could travel? Well, that brings us to our second, much more complex category. This is what we call expansion diffusion. The best way to picture it is like ripples spreading out in a pond after you toss a stone in. The original source, the hearth, stays put and stays strong, but the idea itself expands outward, reaching more and more people. The people are the stayers, but the idea is the traveler. Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. Inside this big category of expansion, an idea can take one of three very different routes. You can think of them as going viral, trickling down from the top, or getting a local remix. So let's break each of those down.
First up, path one, the one we're calling going viral. Its official name is contagious diffusion, and honestly, that name says it all.
This is when an idea spreads just by direct contact, pretty much like a cold. It goes from person to person, friend to friend, neighbor to neighbor. And the key thing here, it doesn't care who you are. It doesn't check your bank account or your job title. If you're nearby, you can catch it.
The internet is basically a super engine for this kind of thing. Viral TikTok dances, internet memes, new slang words like stan, they all blow up through our social networks in this classic contagious pattern. But hey, this is not a new phenomenon. Just think of ancient farmers showing their neighbors a new, better way to plant crops. It's the same exact principle, just with different technology.
All right, time for our second path, which is pretty much the total opposite of going viral. This one is called hierarchical diffusion, and it's all about spreading from the top down. So instead of spreading to just anyone, this kind of idea starts with someone important, a celebrity, a political leader, or in a major influential city like New York or Paris. And from that point of power, it slowly trickles down the social ladder to the rest of us. You could say it needs a little bit of prestige to get going.
And boom, there's the answer to our question from the beginning. The Rachel haircut is the perfect example of this. It started with one huge celebrity on a massive TV show, and then it spread to her millions of fans. We see this all the time with high fashion, right? It starts in Paris or Milan, and then a year later you see versions of it in your local mall. Or with really expensive new technology, where only the wealthiest can get it first.
Okay, let's get to our final path. What happens when a really cool idea shows up in a new place, but it doesn't quite work there? Does it just fizzle out? Well, not always. Sometimes it gets a remix. And that is stimulus diffusion. This might be the most clever type of diffusion. What happens is the main idea, the underlying concept, is a hit, but the specific original version gets changed to fit local tastes or cultural rules. Basically, the idea has to adapt to survive. McDonald's is the absolute master of this. The idea of American fast food spread to India, right? But since beef is a no-go for many Hindus, they remixed the Big Mac into the chicken-based Maharaja Mac. Brilliant. We also see it with yoga, which diffused from its roots as a religious practice in the East and was adapted into a mostly secular form of exercise in the West. The core idea travels, but it puts on a new outfit to fit in.
So, let's put it all together. This is our complete toolkit. We started with the two big categories, right? Relocation, which is all about people moving, and expansion, where the idea moves. And then, inside expansion, we found those three distinct paths: contagious, spreading like a wave; hierarchical, trickling down from the top; and stimulus, spreading by adapting. These are the four fundamental ways an idea can make its journey.
And here's the real takeaway. None of this is an accident. The world you live in is a giant, tangled web of these diffusion paths. The food on your plate, the very words you're hearing me say right now, the phone you might be watching this on, every single one of those things took a specific journey, following one of these four paths just to get to you. Which leaves us with one last thing to think about. As you go about your day, just look around. Right now, at this very second, new ideas are starting their journeys from cultural hearths all over the planet. So the real question is, what's the next big thing? And which of these paths is it going to take to find its way to you?